Hello and welcome! Here's the thing, I really like to make pretty dresses and I also really like to wear them, but most of the dresses I previously made are movie dress recreations or other more fancy dresses, and those need an occasion to wear them, and those occasions are just very rare. So my goal for today is to make a dress that is still very pretty but more casual so I can just wear it. Let's go! This is the design I have in mind, so my plan is to make just a very basic dress, but on the shoulders I'm going to add this extra piece that is going to make it look very special. And for the fabric I have this jersey fabric with a pretty flower print. Making the pattern of the top of the dress is very simple. I'm just going to take this tube top and I folded it in half. This is the center front and this is the center back. And now I'm just going to put it onto a piece of paper, take a pencil and trace around it, add seam allowance, and the pattern is finished. The pattern for the bodice is finished, and for the rest of the dress I won't make a pattern, I simply gonna cut it out. And for the shoulder piece I'm going to cut out a piece that is 90 by 40 centimeters big, and the skirt is going to be a half circle skirt and the inner circle circumference is going to be 18.5 centimeters and the outer circle circumference is going to be 64 centimeters. So let's take the fabric and cut it all out. I managed to cut everything out, but I only have very little fabric left. I also had to cut the back piece as two separate pieces because the fabric was just not big enough, but that's okay. And now I'm just going to assemble the tube top part of the dress. First, I sew the two back pieces together to have one full back piece, and I sew the two front pieces together on the top edge. I simply sew them together on the overlock because then the stitch is stretchy and it's also cleaned up. But you also can just use a normal sewing machine. Then I just open up the front piece and understitch it to make sure that the top edge is nice and flat. And it was very wavy after sewing it, so I just pressed it and then it looked fine. Next I hem the back piece with a twin needle, and then I have the front and the back, and I put the back piece in between the two front pieces and just close up the side seams. The top is finished. I did end up making it a bit smaller than I originally planned because it was just sitting way too loose, but now it fits very well, and that means I can start working on the skirt. First, I take the skirt, fold it in half and close up the center back seam. Then I divide the waist of the skirt into 4 sections and evenly pin it onto the top, and while sewing it together I stretch it out a little bit, but just a little bit to make sure that it's just evenly sewn together. And lastly, I fold in the hem of the skirt. All that's left to do on the skirt is to hem it, and I want to try to do it with a flat lock seam. It's a specific seam on the overlock and I have never used it, so I'm just going to use my manual and do all the settings on my overlock and just hope that it works. And if it doesn't, I'm just gonna sew it with a twin needle on my normal sewing machine. I managed to figure it out, and now that I know how it works, I feel a little bit dumb because I always just assumed that you simply sew across it and magically this ladder stitch appears, but that's obviously not the case. You actually have to fold it right sides facing each other and sew along this folded edge, and then fold it open again and just pull on it a little bit and this stitch appears. And I think it's a bit hard to do because you have to be very precise where you sew to make this leather stitch look pretty. But I think I'm gonna try it, and if it doesn't work, I can still switch to my normal sewing machine. The skirt is finally hemmed, and I did end up sewing it on my sewing machine because the serger was just giving me a headache. And it looks very nice, and I don't know what made me think that it wouldn't look good, but I'm just glad it looks good. I definitely spent way too much time trying to do this other stitch, but now the basic part of the dress is finished, and now I'm gonna start working on the shoulder piece. I start by folding the piece in half lengthwise and sew it together. Then I fold it in half in the other direction and sew the seam as well, but I leave a little hole because then I can turn it inside out in the end. This is very confusing. It loops in the wrong direction. It's supposed to loop like this, but it's more like a scarf, and I don't understand it. I just can't turn it the correct way out. I think I'm just going to make a hole in the other seam I first sewed and try to turn it around that way, and I hope that it works. I still don't know why it's not working, but I simply cut off the shorter seam, and now I'm just going to assemble it like you would assemble a scrunchie, because I know for sure that this works. It worked! I still don't know why it didn't work in the first place, but I'm just very happy that it worked this time. And now the last thing I have to do is to attach this piece to the rest of the dress. First, I gather the center front of the shoulder piece and then pin it onto the front of the top of the dress, and then just sew those two pieces together. It is finished, and I just really love how it looks. I think it's just the right amount of fancy but still casual enough to wear it, and I still don't really understand why the shoulder piece didn't turn out the correct way. But I don't care, it worked out in the end, and that is what counts. And now, without further ado, let's have a look at the finished dress. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel and like the video, it would just really help me a lot. And if you want to see more summer creations, you can watch this video where I made a very pretty, easy to make and still very comfortable skirt.